Hello all and welcome to today's class. I am Sushma D, your tutor from GFGC Shira. So today we shall continue discussing a wonderful poem by the Indian poetess Toru Dutt entitled Lakshman. Before we continue further, let us have a quick recap of the previous classes. In the first class, we learnt about the poet and about the poem. So Lakshman is written by a Bengali poetess, namely Toru Dutt, and her period is 1856 to 1877. She was the first Indian woman poet to write in English, and she is often referred as the Keats of Indo-English literature. She wrote both in English and French. She was deeply interested and inspired by Hindu mythology and its legends, characters, gods and goddesses, and this finds ample reflection in her works. We have also studied about the poem. Lakshman is a part of the collection Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. The form of the poem is ballad with 8 lines in each stanza. The poem comprises of 22 stanzas in total. In this particular poem, Toru describes an episode from the Ramayana and deals with 2 of its main characters, namely Sita and Lakshman. So in this particular poem, Lakshman is a portrait of the ideal brother, a splendid picture of chivalry and self-control. And Sita comes across not just as a mythological character, as simply the wife of Rama, but as a human being, a woman to be particular, prone to human emotions and human provocations. Again, as a woman, she comes across not as a meek and submissive character, but as an authoritative and dominant person, the one who is aware of her rights, the one who is capable of battling for her rights and getting her demand accomplished. The theme of the poem is derived from Ramayana. The Ramayana is an ancient Sanskrit epic which follows Prince Rama's quest to rescue his beloved wife Sita from the clutches of Ravana with the help of an army of monkeys. You're all familiar with the story of Ramayana. This particular poem begins based on the following context of the Ramayana. So when Rama and Sita and Lakshmana were exiled for about 14 years through the plotting of his stepmother Kaikeyi, in the forest, when they stay at Panchavati, Sita was deeply moved by a golden deer roaming around here and there, and thus she asked Rama to get it for her. And being a husband, Rama goes in the pursuit of the golden deer by ordering Lakshman to take care of Sita. In spite of Lakshman's forewarnings expressed by him, he guesses that the golden deer is Maricha in disguise sent by Ravana. After a long pursuit, finally Rama fells the deer with an arrow. While dying, the deer cries out in Rama's voice for help, screaming the names of Sita and Lakshman. Hey Sita, hey Lakshmana. So hearing this cry, Sita mistakes it for Rama's voice. So this is where the poem actually begins. So we have discussed the first 3 stanzas. So the poem is a dramatic dialogue, and the first 3 stanzas depicts Sita, who is so worried, excited and upset all at once on hearing the voice of her husband Rama calling out for help. So overpowered by fear, she imagines Rama beset with danger and berates Lakshman for standing as if in deep thought, when he should be girding on his sword, bow and arrows and speeding to rescue. At his continued silence and inaction, she cries, "Is it my brother that I see?" Right? This is the gist of all the 3 stanzas, where Sita goes on pleading Lakshman to rescue Rama. In the next 5 stanzas of the poem, that is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th stanza. So in these 5 stanzas, Lakshman disapproves Sita's doubts of her husband's might. He tries to make realize the prowess of Rama, and by doing so, he also tries to convince Sita regarding the safety of Rama. So he states that the lion and the bear bend before the royal look of Rama. Even the eagle, which is a sun-staring bird of the air, just can't face the angry look of Rama. And even the deadly cobras and pythons glide away in shame. By mentioning the wild animals, birds and poisonous animals, he tries to state that even these wild poisonous animals and birds are going to bow before Rama. And along with it, he even mentions the evil spirits like Rakshasas, Danavas, demons and ghosts. These are all filled with terror at the very sight of Rama, and they try to hide themselves in the remotest part of the coastal areas. He therefore requests her to be herself, bold, great, and wise, by wiping the dusted tears. He even tries to speculate that the cry is raised by some trickful foe. And all the more, he was not willing to disobey his brother's command. And only because of that reason, he tries to persuade Sita by making her realize the prowess of Rama in all these 5 stanzas. So in today's session, let us proceed further. In the next 6 stanzas, that is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 stanza, Sita employs the weapons like taunts and scorn, mockery and sarcasm at random to mobilize Lakshman into action. O shame! And canst thou make my weal a plea for lingering? Now I know what thou art, Lakshman, and I feel far better were an open foe. Art thou a coward? I have seen thy bearing in the battle fray, where flew the death-fraught arrows keen, else had I judged thee so today. But then thy leader stood beside, dazzles the cloud when shines the sun. Reft of his radiance, see it glide, a shapeless mass of vapors dun. So of thy courage, or if not, the matter is far darker dyed. What makes thee loath to leave the spot? Is there a motive thou wouldst hide? So, in these 2 stanzas, that is 9th and 10th stanza, Sita tries to insult Lakshman by mentioning his courage and calling him as a coward. She says that Lakshman should be ashamed of himself for making a plea for lingering around her in the name of her safety. Even though she has seen Lakshman bearing in the battle where death-fraught arrows are exchanged, yet she judges and blames him as a coward, and states that an open foe is better than him. She even speaks of his courage by stating that he always showed his courage because of his brother. When the sun shines, cloud also dazzles. You're all familiar with this. So cloud is going to dazzle when the sun shines. And without its radiance, it fades like a shapeless mass of vapors done. Okay, as and when the cloud loses its radiance. So we are going to notice that cloud would become a shapeless mass of a vapors done. Right? So one could notice beautiful simile which marks Toru's power of imagination. Here, in these lines, she compares Rama's power to the sun and Lakshman's courage to the dazzling cloud in the sunshine. She means to state that even though Lakshman showed his bravery or courage, it is all because of the presence or power of his brother Rama. Okay? And confused and deeply grieved Sita, she just cannot see the real power of Lakshman, who is not less than Rama. Since she is in such a situation, she is unable to recognize the power of Lakshman, who is not less than Rama, and she is scorning Lakshman. It also brings forth the mental plight of Sita. Then she asks him, is there a motive you would like to hide? Okay, so if you are a courageous person, then there should be a darker side of your inaction pertaining to the safety of Rama. So, and only because of that reason, she asked that, is there a motive you would like to hide? So she goes on taunting, and of course even she goes on scorning him, much in order to provoke him and to mobilize him to action. Okay, let us continue further. He perishes, well, let him die. His wife henceforth shall be mine own. Can that thought deep embedded lie within thy heart's most secret zone? Search well and see. One brother takes his kingdom, one would take his wife. A fair partition, but it makes me shudder and abhor my life. Art thou in secret league with those who from his hope the kingdom rent, a spy from his ignoble foes, to track him in his banishment? And wouldst thou at his death rejoice? I know thou wouldst, are sure, ere now, when first thou heardest that well-known voice, thou shouldst have run to aid, I trow. So in these two particular stanzas, that is in 11th and 12th stanza, she employs mockery and sarcasm to the fullest core. She accuses Lakshman of desiring Rama's death so that he may win for himself his brother's wife and for his brother his kingdom. And she calls it a fair partition. But this fair partition has made her shiver or tremble, and along with it, it even makes her to scorn her own life. She further insults him by asking him whether he has a secret league with those who rented him, or a spy of Rama's foe to track him in his banishment. She also says that if he truly loved Rama, he would have run to rescue him soon after he listens his cry for help. But since he is not doing so, she believes that surely he would enjoy the death of Rama. So she just goes on scorning him like anything in order to mobilize Lakshman into action. Moving further, in these two stanzas, that is 13th and 14th stanza, once again she continues her insults and provides a final declaration. Learn this, whatever comes may come, but I shall not survive my love. Of all my thoughts, here is the sum. Witness it, gods in heaven above. If fire can burn or water drown, I follow him. Choose what thou wilt, truth with its everlasting crown, or falsehood, treachery, and guilt. Remain here with a vain pretense of shielding me from wrong and shame, or go and die in his defense, and leave behind a noble name. Choose what thou wilt. I urge no more. My pathway lies before me clear. I did not know thy mind before. I know thee now and have no fear. So in these two stanzas, she insults him with the final declaration. She states that, learn this, whatever comes may come, but I shall not survive my love. She states that whatever might be the circumstance, and she shall not survive or live without her love. And she even swears in the name of God that if fire can burn or water drown, I follow him. So, she says that wherever Rama goes, definitely she would follow him and reunite with him. So thereupon, she asks Lakshman to choose the way either of truth with its everlasting crown, or of falsehood, treachery, and guilt. So by offering such choice, she further says that she will not urge him anymore, as her path is very clear and she is without fear. Now, she did not look like a gentle Sita in the eyes of Lakshman. Okay? So finally, in these last two stanzas, she insults, scorns Lakshman and gives her final declaration. Right? I hope that you have been enjoying the poem Lakshman, written by an Indian poetess, Toru Dutt. Let us continue further in our next class. Thank you all.